in a business, we have to look forward and not to hang our head down and to believe that the business that we are doing is right and we are here for customers. You never know where the customer will go after a year, 2 or 5 years. And we truly believe that growing data center industry is also growing in our region. And that's why edge computing here is also a must. Hi, it's Inese Pētersone from Delska, and you're watching Data Center Go-to-Market podcast.
Hello, data center friends. Welcome to a new episode of the Data Center Go-to-Market podcast. I'm Joshua Feinberg, host of the podcast from DCSMI, and I am thrilled to have a very special guest joining me today. I'm welcoming Inese Pētersone from DEAC in Latvia. Inese, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you very much. I'm really thrilled to meet you today as well. Thank you for this opportunity.
Oh, you're very welcome. And thank you so much for agreeing to come on the podcast and share all your wisdom in helping to grow DEAC as its product leader.
I hope to do that well.
So Inese, I think the first place that would be super helpful for our audience to understand is how you ended up in your current role as product manager for DEAC. Did you always know that you wanted to get into a product-related leadership role? Did you always know you wanted to work in the data center industry or digital infrastructure? Is this something that you studied in university or when you were younger?
Of course, product management is not my first role, not nearly that. I studied public sciences, and it's more related to public management, let's say so. And it has actually nothing in common to my current role. I've worked as a sales for a long time. I was working like sales in IT wholesales company. And afterwards, when I came to DEAC, it was like a step forward because, at some point, everybody of us feels like he has to change something or to adapt to something or learn something new. That's how I found myself working here in DEAC. And actually, at first stages, I even thought like, where have I gotten and what am I doing here? Because before I was working in IT industry and I thought like I understand something in IT. I was always interested in IT and tech sciences and technology. But when I started work in DEAC, it was like a rocket science to me because it's totally different. And it's, I would say, some kind of a high tech in my mind. So yes, I had a lot to learn and a lot to adapt to. So yeah, after a few years, not maybe a few years, 4 or 5 years working like as sales, I was promoted to product management lead or product management head, let's say so. So that's how I'm trying to do my best for my company now.
That's a really interesting career progression. And I think having some time in a sales role probably serves you really well to help figure out what the company should be building next. And I always wonder how product managers are successful when they come right out of college or university and jump right into product management without having all of that time in a customer facing or product facing role. Because so much of what you're trying to figure out what to build next is by spending time with people and understanding their pain and their goals and what they're frustrated with and how they're looking at different solutions in the market. So yeah, that's super interesting that you're able to have that experience.
Yes, you're totally right. But I think that not very much product management managers are allowed, to take lead in companies when they are just right out of high school, because you really should have some experience in working with people or in technologies or in some of these spheres, so that you can have your view on things and have your opinion.
Yeah, I think a lot of it really just comes down to getting closer to your end customers, spending more time, meaningful time with them, getting their feedback, understanding, empathizing with them, really understanding the struggles that they're going through internally and in their companies, and how their companies are dealing with competitive issues, how their companies are addressing regulatory issues that certainly always come up in digital infrastructure. So that it seems like a really good combination. With that in mind, what advice would you have to someone that is brand new to the data center industry? They're just about to start their first job, or they're looking for their first job to get in some kind of customer-facing role in the data center industry. Maybe it's in product, it could be in sales, it could be in marketing, maybe customer success, maybe they're doing something related to channel partnerships. What would you advise them to be concentrating on in the first few years of their career?
I would say that it doesn't it isn't different in the role which you are taking. The one thing that you should remember, that you should be ready to learn a lot, and always keep learning and never give up, because even at the points where you might be, struggling with understanding internal processes, understanding industry, the business itself. Remember, why did you came here in the first place? And what do you want to achieve? Otherwise, if you get scared or leave something, just because it's too tough, it's hard to achieve better results, I would say so. And also you have to take a look at the company itself. In the first place, when we choose company where we want to work, we have to answer the question, why is it the place that I want to work in? What is possible for me? What could I gain from that and give in return? So I think this is nothing new, but those are simple things to remember and to keep yourself, in good health, and remember why are you there and why are you doing things you're doing.
That's some really sound advice to help someone stay grounded in the purpose for what they're trying to achieve in their career and how they see that helping the company, helping the team that they're joining, just keeping the basics the basics. With that in mind, what about someone who is much later on in their career? Maybe they're mid-career, perhaps you worked with them early on in your career as a colleague, and you run into them at a conference 10 or 15 years later, and they say, you're doing great. I like working in this industry, but I'm kind of struggling. I'm trying to figure out how to pivot my career, how to recharge the batteries, how to get back on track. What advice would you give to someone that is eager to stay within digital infrastructure or data centers in some kind of customer-facing role, but is kind of hit a wall with their career progression?
I would say if somebody tells me that his battery is low and he has to charge a bit, he just has to charge. Maybe it's something else he should be doing at that moment, or just to pay his mind. But that doesn't mean that you don't have to come back anymore, yeah? Or even you have to take a vacation, let's say so. But afterwards, you just have to look up for opportunities. There's always, if you are, 20 years old, maybe it's hard to understand which is the sphere where you would like to move forward. But when you are 30 or above, you already know things that you like to do. And at those points, I think you should consider understanding which are the things you like to do the most, and where is this point where you could find your niche and be, successful or unique. Unique is very hard to find these days. Unique people or unique things to do. We all are unique in our own way, but yes, I would say you should look for the opportunities for yourself. And if you will understand where is your opportunity, you can always talk to your employee and offer things. I think that your boss will always listen to you, and if you have something to say, I think he should always take your advice on your opinion on the opportunities where you see yourself in his company, because everybody should be doing the things he likes the best and that he does the best, in my mind.
Yeah, that's great advice for so many people. Getting to a place of professional gratification comes down to the relationship that they have with their boss, and reminds me of that famous Steve Jobs quote years ago, is we don't hire smart people to tell them what to do. We hire smart people for them to tell us what to do.
Yes, that's for sure.
There's a lot of truth to the humility aspect of company leadership being open to feedback from diverse perspectives on their team.
That's actually a very important thing. And I have noticed during my career that leaders or managers who listen to their employees and are ready to, hear the argumentation and change their mind if they hear some useful information, they most often are successful at their own career and their life path as well.
And that's when you look at the digital infrastructure, both throughout Europe and globally, and you think of where DEAC has figured out some really unique competitive advantages, what mistakes do you see others making, both in your regional marketplace and globally in the data center industry, that you'd like to see change?
I would say that maybe it's not a mistake, but the thing that we should all remember is that we should keep evolving constantly, because each company, if the business stays on place and the feeling like everything's done, everything's fine, and we in Latvia have that saying, Riga is never ready. Riga is the capital of Latvia. It keeps, evolving, and that's what I would like to offer to the businesses as well. You can never stay on one place, and you should never be satisfied with what you've achieved. You should move forward all the time. And actually, according to our company, I would like to also point out that from the first day when I got here, I have never had a feeling that, oh, everything's fine now. It will be like this for a moment, for a while. It will be quiet and peaceful. We are, changing all the time, and we're thinking of changing processes, approaches, the ways how we go out with digital marketing. We have changed and implemented new solutions as well. And for now, I would like to also announce that we are in the stage of uniting two companies under one brand. Also, that's the point where we also are, achieving on the way on achieving new heights, I would say, which will make us stronger. And during this month, we are announcing a new brand, Delska. And actually, I have this new T-shirt made for me just today, because Latvian company DEAC and Lithuanian company DLC, we're also uniting and going on with our new great brand. And let's hope it will also be as a new beginning for us and success. And actually, all of it, if we return to the topic, is the thing that I would like to advise to others is keep evolving and keep developing your business in every ways that you can, because business is not just about one day. You have to keep your mind to the future. You cannot stop, and always think how not to put your hands down, but to grow your business. That's what it's all about.
That's super interesting. Congratulations on the merger of joining the two companies. I wish you tremendous success in establishing and growing the new brand under Delska.
Thank you.
And What's super interesting about all of that is oftentimes leadership in companies act like some of these initiatives are one and done. Like we're going to do product management for a while and then we'll move on. And we're going to do some marketing for a while and then we'll move on. But the reality is marketplaces are dynamics. Everyone is always trying to grow. Everyone's trying to do better for their customers. In this particular world that we're in right now, so many companies are trying to figure out where they fit in with the growth of AI and high performance computing changing the industry. But yeah, for sure, it's definitely not static, always changing.
The Data Center Go-to-Market podcast is sponsored by DCSMI, elevating the role of sales, marketing, and go-to-market GTM professionals in the growth of the data center industry. To stay informed about upcoming episodes, make sure that you subscribe to the Data Center Sales and Marketing newsletter on the DCSMI website that can be found at www.dcsmi.com. Again, that URL is www.dcsmi.com.
I know you've mentioned when we spoke in the past that you're doing a lot of work with some active construction projects going on, and you're super interested in Edge. What have you learned so far about both construction and Edge that you think would be super helpful for our viewers to know about?
Yes, if we talk about construction, currently we're as well doing one of the great development projects is a building of new data center, which we hopefully will launch in the end of in the year 25. There is a lot of challenges and struggles during the process of development of all of these projects. But as we understand it, yes, the Baltic region, which, if you might know, is near the Baltic Sea, where we have nice sandy beaches and pine tree forests, is also a good place where our customers might be looking for a colocation space in the future. Of course, we can always also think about the geopolitical situations and so on. But again, as I previously said, in a business, we have to look forward and not to hang our head down and to believe that the business that we are doing is right and we are here for customers. You never know where the customer will go after a year, 2 or 5 years. And we truly believe that growing data center industry is also growing in our region. And that's why edge computing here is also a must.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Just really understanding what the demand is going to be like for your customers, not just today, but thinking ahead with a multi-year perspective. With that in mind, what do you think the future of being a product manager in digital infrastructure is going to look like a few years out from now? Do you think a lot of the same processes and initiatives that you've used in the past will continue to stay the same? Or do you see your role changing going forward?
According to my own role and my own tasks, of course, I see that I might change something because, everybody has to change something. Of course, you can change in your current role. You can change the way you talk, the way you work. You can change the tools you use or the communication style. At least this is a small change because you can do it easily. But of course, I see that constant growing in company or in business or in industry is a very important thing. Actually, while working in DEAC and now for future in Delska, I've always seen that this company is trying to develop and to change the course where they are going, because we are not staying in one place for long. So to make a total of it all, I would say that how can you work for something, if you do not believe that something will be better sometime, yes, even if it's good enough at this moment, you always have to look further. And that's what I'm doing.
So part of the role going forward seems like wearing the hat of futurist, being the chief futurist for your company and thinking through at a visionary level what the company needs to be doing next. And then
why not?
Yeah.
Yes, that's a good idea.
The predictor of the future, and as in the magic crystal ball of what's going to come next with among our customers, among our partners. So yeah, I imagine spending more time with understanding their requirements, understanding their needs, thinking about needs that they haven't even articulated yet, of what you anticipate they're going to need that they may not even know that they need yet.
Actually, yeah, I would say that's a big part of a product management role, to predict, to research, to think further than others at this moment. It's not an easy job to do, but also it takes some of a, open-mindedness, to receive this information in your head. Yes, so that's kind of a challenging at some moments as well.
When I think about both the present and the future, it's hard to ignore AI. Have you found much of a change yet in your daily and weekly routines yet? Since AI has been around for 10 years, but it's only really been in the last 18 months or so with the rise of OpenAI and ChatGPT that it's come into mainstream usage. Are you seeing much difference yet in where you spend your time, both as a product manager and how you guide the overall strategy of DEAC and now Delska?
I would say, of course, AI is a thing that comes into our daily lives, especially to people who work in tech industry, and also others as well. It depends, I think, on the people's interests and how much they like to, come into new technologies and to find out what they are capable of. But of course, in my life, in my professional career as well, my colleagues, I can see that it's very often I can hear from colleagues that, oh, you have a question, you have to ask it to ChatGPT, for example, if you don't know. And it means like we don't use our everyday browsers and search engines, and we just remember that we have this AI tool that we can refer to and ask, and it will gather all the information in one place. Of course, you have to remember that you cannot rely 100% on the answer that it gives you, but I think it's a good tool. Not only ChatGPT, all the other tools of AI that we can use in our daily lives is to simplify our fast world that is going on. Because in my work, it just releases some of the works that would be done a bit longer usually, but if you do the AI tools, it's a bit faster, and it means a lot nowadays to save time.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I started my career just before the commercial web, before Googling something became a verb that people use to look things up. And we've become so used to the results showing up in the 10 blue links and trying to surmise from the domain names whether it's a trustworthy or not a trustworthy source, and clicking through and gleaning this all together. And yeah, you have to wonder, like, how soon will it be? Are we 3, 6 months, 12 months, 24 months before the chatbots, before Copilot and ChatGPT and Gemini start to significantly erode the traditional search engine optimization, search engine marketing that has become a mainstay for so many technology companies in general?
Yes, that's right. And the manual tasks are not needed anymore, actually. Yeah, as long as you can rely on AI and its advices, why should you do manual jobs? And it's not a thing to be afraid of, in my opinion. It's just that you have to use it right. That's all.
I remember a time 10 or 15 years ago where enterprise IT managers were afraid of the cloud and back then there were certainly a lot of security concerns, but I think a lot of the more fundamental part of them being afraid of the cloud is they were afraid that the cloud would disrupt their jobs and their careers. So a lot of them built this moat, this fortress around their job security by convincing their employer to build an enterprise data center that they would manage. And some of that worked, some of that didn't. But over time, there's always going to be some new innovations that are going to move progress going forward. But when I think about your role at DEAC and then with product is for sure not an island. There's a lot of interdependencies across the full go-to-market team, from marketing to sales, from sales to customer success and account management, and the role of product and channel partnerships. Can you give our viewers a little bit of insight into how you collaborate with other teams and other individuals within your company?
If we talk about collaboration, I think it has an essential role actually in each of the position, that you have to feel yourself like in team, because in business, the person itself, it's not a digger. He has to have a team of professionals, and I can share that also my colleagues and my team and all the departments we have in DEAC and now Delska are really professional people. For example, if we talk about sales team, yes, I used to work as sales, and I really appreciated when customers told me how they feel, where they struggle, where are the challenges of their business and their everyday routine, and what are their plans, what are their tasks. But at the moment where I'm a product manager, of course, I don't have that much communication with customers. And sales team is always the first resource that can bring information about the market. It's one of the sources, of course, but it's a very important source. Because they have everyday communication with customers, and you can develop some new service or solution that you have in your mind, and you just put their pink and green color and find it just perfect. But you never know if you don't have an opinion from the outside. So sales team is a number one. Of course, marketing team is as well the source that generates leads, that makes the product visible itself, that customer can find us. And I appreciate very much that our marketing team is working really, really hard at this moment, because they have so many projects going on. And again, they don't push you aside and tell that, no, we won't help you because we don't have time. They have to do multitasking, and they are always, like welcoming me and my colleagues who are searching for help, and as well as technical department, research and development department. They are, I would say, guys who are irreplaceable, because everything they do, we have to remember that, yes, there is sales who brings in the money, there is marketing who brings in also incoming requests for services, but the technical side is the one is the reason why you can say that, oh, we have a quality service, we have development team that knows the best, who use the newest technologies, who always learn, who are, in some way scientists, and they search for new things and search for new solutions, how we could solve our problems, our projects, our challenges. So I would say each of the team is very, very essential. And I personally appreciate very much each of the person that we have in our company.
It sounds like from what I'm hearing that at time it's a role of uniter. It probably at times feels like orchestra conductor, but being able to reach out and diplomatically build and maintain these relationships with different professionals who bring different perspectives based on where they spend their time is incredibly valuable to what you're doing and shaping the product strategy. And it seems like it would be especially important as you go through your next challenges of bringing together two teams. And there's so much mergers and acquisitions that go on in the data center industry that this has to be a skill that everyone gets used to over time, is that you're bringing together product strategy from two different companies and go-to-market engines and sales process for two different companies and onboarding and customer support and network operations from two different companies.
Yes, that seems like a never-ending story at this moment, and I feel that we will all have hard times, but it's also quite interesting how we will go through all of these processes. And yes, that's the reason for being here, because it's interesting.
At the end of the day, having more locations and more resources always should help your customers and your partners be able to provide closer locations to where they are, to reduce latency. That's the whole value proposition of Edge, and more resiliency.
That's for sure. Yes, of course, the locations are, which we have not just one locations, but a few locations, and customers are it's available for them to have different locations and to get closer to them, and also they have they can choose in the end of the day. Yeah.
And that's a lot of what it's all about, is listening to what they want, recognizing that there's choices in the marketplace, and hoping that you've put together the most compelling value proposition on a multitude of different factors that helps you build great long-term relationships with your customers and partners.
Yeah, that's right. Totally right.
Inese, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate you sharing your expertise so generously. If someone has any questions based on what you talked about in today's podcast episode, or wants to reach out to you, is LinkedIn a good channel for you, or is there another way that you prefer to people get in touch?
Yes, LinkedIn, it's a good channel to reach out, and of course, I try to reply when people turn to me.
And in terms of following what DEAC is working on, what Delska is working on, where would be the best resource for someone to keep track of?
Of course, it's also LinkedIn, where almost all of our activities can be found, and as well our website, www.delska.com, which will be up in the air from the next week.
That's terrific, Inese. Thanks so much. I've been speaking with Inese Pētersone, who is the product manager, product leader for DEAC and now Delska, based in Riga, Latvia. Inese, thanks so much for joining me on the Data Center Go-to-Market podcast.
Thank you very much as well. Have a nice day.
You too. Take care now.
Okay, bye-bye.
The Data Center Go-to-Market podcast is sponsored by DCSMI, elevating the role of sales, marketing, and go-to-market GTM professionals in the growth of the data center industry. To stay informed about upcoming episodes, make sure that you subscribe to the Data Center Sales and Marketing newsletter on the DCSMI website that can be found at www.dcsmi.com. Again, that URL is www.dcsmi.com.